Well, the latest report coming from the International Air Transport Association, IATA, has announced that it expects almost 8 billion passengers to travel by 2036, a near doubling of the 4 billion air travelers expected to fly this year. IATA says the prediction is based on a 3.6% average compound annual growth rate. Director General Alexander Dejunaik says the biggest driver of demand would be the Asia-Pacific region, noting that the region will be the source of more than half the new passengers over the next 2 decades. Now let's talk IATA and the ICAO, that's the International Civil Aviation Organization, projection that the global air travel will double by 2030. Aviation consultant Tayo Ojuri joins me in the studio here. Many thanks for your time, Tayo.
Thank you. Yes. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, Tayo. This latest news we're having from IATA and ICAO that would have an upsurge by 2030. Where is this coming from if we're going to look at the level of trade liberalization and visa applications that we have currently?
The growth for the, like you rightly said, the global growth is looked at. It's going to be driven by population growth. It's going to be driven mainly within the Asia-Pacific region, like you said. And within Africa, we're looking at the growth of about 5.9%. And obviously, there'll be a growth in GDP. There'll be a growth as well in infrastructural facilities. Well, the drivers, obviously, is the GDP population growth, specifically in Africa.
Okay.
We're seeing a double-digit population growth. We're seeing growth in GDP. We're seeing growth in the increase of middle class and millennials, which is actually going to increase the number of people that now have the opportunity to fly.
Okay, now let's focus on Nigeria. Let's bring it back home. Yes, already we know that IATA asked that countries should position themselves to prepare themselves for this increase. Now, let's look at Nigeria. NCA says it's already prepared the sector to develop the capacity. In your view as a consultant and looking at what aviation is like in Nigeria, do you think we're ready? Do you think we're positioned for this upsurge?
I don't think, I very much doubt that. Even where we are now and with the infrastructure, we don't have the infrastructure, airport infrastructure and aviation infrastructure to actually take care of the passenger throughput as it were today, as well as aircraft movement. Because you're aware that the Murtala Mohammed International Airport that was built about 30 years ago, was built for 200,000 passengers. At this
200,000?
Yes. And at this moment, we're having about 7 million passengers per annum. So we can actually see the infrastructure is actually, there's deficit infrastructure with that. So how are we going to be prepared for 2030? Is to get a robust facility, a robust database. The database helps us with the forecast to see what are we going to plan, what are the demography of the passengers that are traveling. Are they just business travelers? Are they just those that are traveling to visit family and friends? Are they just those that are traveling to invest here? So with that demography and with our knowledge and that information, we're able to plan further and see where the passengers are going. Are they going to the south? Are they more of tourists? So all this robust data helps us to build on the infrastructure. And the infrastructure would help us to ensure a seamless passenger facilitation process.
All right, we'll talk more about this, but we have to take a break now, Tayo. And when we come back, of course, we'll be looking at the visa facilitation level in Nigeria at the moment. We'll take a break now. We'll be back for more. You're watching Business Tonight. We're talking IATA and ICAO projection that global air travel will double by 2030. I've been speaking with aviation consultant Tayo Ojuri. Yes, Tayo, before we went on that break, we're talking about how prepared Nigeria is to position itself for this upsurge. Now, the DG NCA, Captain Mukhtar Usman, says the country aspires to become a hub for Western Central Africa before this projected period. Well, I'm sharing in his optimism. Yeah, but let's look at visa facilitation. Let's look at how it is at the moment, and also, of course, trade liberalization in Nigeria. And if we get this right, what this could contribute to the GDP? What revenue it could bring on table?
With the ease of doing business directly, a directive that was actually that commenced in May, we've seen significant changes. But it's just to ensure significant changes such as visa on arrival for some certain countries. And with that, it's just about sustainability and to ensure that the seamless effort, the seamless passenger experience is made manifest at the airport. But the challenge we see is that the airport is made manifest at the airport. But the challenge we see is that the airport is still not a passenger-friendly facility. You find out that the investor coming here is still not. You still have lots of challenges at the airport. So with that visa on arrival, the passengers, a seamless passenger experience, as well as the flow of trade coming here because of the population growth, this will be a good attraction. However, we need to ensure that this is well placed to attract people more. To
attract people more, yes. But another major issue, before I let you go, is the issue of airfares. It was reviewed recently by about 10%, if I'm very right. If I'm correct, I start to be corrected. Now, with that, and we're looking at this upsurge, is that possible? Yeah, I know you talked about the population, but when we have airfares on the rise again, where does that get Nigeria?
Well, our airfares is driven by so many things. It's not just driven by the population, it's driven by Forex. Like the previous news information did tell us, foreign exchange is still being sustained by the government. Well,
it seems to be stabilized now. With the
stability of the Forex, the cost of operating an airline is actually 70% foreign-based.
Okay.
Fuel is 40% of your operational cost, and with that operational cost is imported as well. So when you have to send your crew for training, which is still outside, we just started setting up an MRO now that's able to do a C-check. So that way we're able to save money in here, and that would be able to apply to the cost of operating the airline, which will make the ticket fare go lower.
All right, very briefly before I let you go now, finally, do you think Nigeria can get it right in the aviation sector?
Eventually, it's a function of political will and transparency.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. Aviation consultant, Ojuri.
My pleasure.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.